don't know, but your songs are supposed to have a subtle message.
Subtle message?
Well, they're supposed to.
Where'd you hear that?
In a movie magazine.
Oh, my God.
Bob Dylan might just be the most savage interview subject in the history of music. For 60 years, reporters have walked in expecting answers and walked out completely destroyed. He never raised his voice. He didn't have to. All it took was one cold, deadpan line to leave a journalist with absolutely nowhere to hide.
What are you trying to say in your music? I don't understand one of the songs.
Yeah.
Can you
Well, you shouldn't feel offended or anything, you know. It's not, you know, it's not, I'm not trying to say anything to you, you know. Like, if you don't get it, like, you don't have to really think about it because it's not addressed to you.
The Song and Dance Man. At the legendary 1965 K-Qued press conference in San Francisco, a serious journalist tried to pin Dylan down with what he thought was a profound question, asking whether he saw himself primarily as a singer or a poet. Everyone in the room leaned in, waiting for something deep. What they got instead was pure Dylan.
Think of yourself primarily as a singer or as a poet?
Oh, I think of myself more as a song and dance man, you know.
What?
Song and dance.
He just shrugged and said he thought of himself more as a song and dance man. It completely deflated the question, and it set the tone for everything that followed. How many protest singers? Still at that same 1965 conference, a reporter tried to box him into the protest singer label that he'd spent years trying to shake off. They asked him how many protest singers there actually were, expecting some thoughtful cultural commentary. Dylan didn't miss a beat.
How many are protest singers? That is, people who use their music, use the song to protest.
So many?
Yes. Are there many?
Yeah, I used to be like 136.
He told them there were about 136. Not a lot. Not too many. A precise, absurd number delivered with a completely straight face, and the room had no idea what to do with it. The bank account. When a journalist at the 1965 conference asked Dylan what he thought about the people who analyze his songs, dissecting every lyric for hidden meaning, they clearly expected him to be flattered. Instead, Dylan told them he welcomed those people with open arms, and that his bank account welcomed them too.
Can you tell me how much you make a month from your Columbia Records alone?
I don't know how much I make.
You don't get a breakdown.
I have no idea what I make, and I don't want to ever find out.
In one sentence, he managed to acknowledge the analysts, mock the whole industry of interpretation, and remind everyone he was getting paid either way. Sometimes, in the bathtub, the questions at that press conference kept coming, and Dylan kept swatting them away. When somebody asked whether he thought of himself as a musician, an easy softball of a question, he replied that he did sometimes in the bathtub. It was the kind of answer that made it clear he had no intention of playing along with anyone's expectations of what a serious artist was supposed to say. I didn't have a camera. One reporter tried to get clever, asking Dylan why there was no picture of him on the cover of his album Another Side of Bob Dylan. It sounded like the setup for some deep artistic explanation about identity or image. Dylan just told them he didn't have a camera. No deeper meaning. No philosophy. Just a flat little joke that left the questioner with nothing to follow up on. The Time magazine takedown. This is the one everybody remembers. In the documentary Don't Look Back, a reporter from Time magazine sat down with Dylan in 1965, and Dylan absolutely dismantled him.
You don't know the people that read you. Because, I've never been in Time magazine, and yet this hall is filled twice. And I've never been in Time magazine. I don't need Time magazine.
He told the reporter flat out that he didn't take the magazine seriously, that if he wanted to find the truth, he wouldn't read Time or Newsweek or any of them, because they had too much to lose by printing the truth. He accused the whole operation of dealing in facts with no real ideas behind them. The reporter barely got a word in. A lot of nerve. That same Time magazine confrontation went to an even darker place. Dylan looked the reporter dead in the eye and started talking about how they were both going to die, how the world would go on without them, and how nothing the man could ever print would actually offend him.
I'm saying that you're gonna die and you're gonna go off the earth. You're gonna be dead. Man, it could be 20 years. It could be tomorrow. Anytime. So am I. I mean, it's gonna be gone. The world's gonna go on without us. All right, now you do your job in the face of that.
When the journalist tried to push back, Dylan told him he had a lot of nerve asking a question like that.
Do you care about what you're saying?
How could I answer that if you got the nerve to ask me?
Well, then you go, how can
I mean, you got a lot of nerve asking me a question like that.
It's less an interview and more a slow, calm demolition. Either be groovy or leave. Dylan's patience for people who didn't get it was famously thin. In another moment from Don't Look Back, dealing with the crowd and the noise around him, he delivered one of his coldest brush-offs, telling someone to either be groovy or leave. He didn't need it. He didn't ask for it. He just made it clear that anyone who wasn't on his wavelength was free to walk out the door. Keep a good head. When a fan pressed Dylan to reveal the real message behind his music, the deeper truth everyone assumed he was hiding, he refused to give them the satisfaction. He told them his real message was to keep a good head and always carry a light bulb. It was nonsense, and it was perfect.
What is your real message?
My real message? Keep a good head and always carry a light bulb. Well, I plugged it in my socket and the house exploded.
A way of telling the whole world to stop searching his songs for sermons that were never there. Who? Dylan's savagery wasn't reserved for the big philosophical questions. Sometimes it was just a single word. When an interviewer brought up another famous musician, expecting Dylan to weigh in, he cut the entire conversation off at the knees by simply responding, "Who?" One word.
Do you care about what you're saying?
How could I answer that if you got the nerve to ask me?
Well, then you go, how can
I mean, you got a lot of nerve asking me a question like that.
And the topic was dead on arrival. What career? By the time Dylan reached Australia for his 1986 Sydney press conference, he'd been dodging reporters for over 2 decades, and he'd only gotten sharper about it. When someone asked him about his career, Dylan shot back asking what career, insisting he'd never had one, that he was just somebody who did what he did.
Well, this is about all I can do. And that's all I've ever done. I don't really remember doing anything else.
He refused to let anyone frame his life in the neat, tidy terms they were comfortable with. Only when I have to be. At that same 1986 conference, a journalist asked the strangest kind of question, wondering whether it was a burden being Bob Dylan. His answer was pure deflection turned into an art form. He said he was only Bob Dylan when he had to be Bob Dylan.
What's Bob Dylan think of Bob Dylan?
Bob Dylan doesn't ever think about Bob Dylan.
And that most of the time, he just got to be himself. It's the kind of line that sounds like a riddle and ends the conversation at the same time. Bob Dylan doesn't think about Bob Dylan. The Sydney press conference produced one more classic. When a reporter asked what Bob Dylan thinks of Bob Dylan, he calmly informed them that Bob Dylan doesn't ever think about Bob Dylan.
I'm only Bob Dylan when I have to be Bob Dylan. Most of the time, I can just be myself.
He talked about himself in the third person, refused to engage with his own myth, and made the entire premise of the question sound faintly ridiculous, all without cracking a smile. The voice of a generation. For decades, people tried to crown Dylan the voice of his generation, and for decades, he swatted the crown away. In interviews, he made it clear that the colossal titles and accolades people kept piling on him only got in the way.
I'm not going to say anything about it. I'm not writing for any reason. There's no great message. I mean, if you want to tell other people that, go ahead and tell them. But I'm not going to have to answer to it.
When one interviewer gently pointed out that it was his own fault, since he wrote the lyrics that spoke to millions, Dylan didn't take the bait. He simply agreed that the label made it harder to just do his job. This week it is. When Dylan returned to television in 2004 for his famous 60 Minutes interview with Ed Bradley, his edge hadn't dulled one bit. Bradley pointed out that Like a Rolling Stone had just been named the greatest song of all time, calling it a real pat on the back. Dylan looked unimpressed and reminded him that the lists change names all the time. This week it's number 1, he said, but who's to say how long that's going to last? The bargain. The most chilling moment of that 2004 interview came when Bradley asked Dylan why. After all these years, he was still out there touring and performing. Dylan told him it went back to a bargain he'd made a long time ago and that he was holding up his end. When Bradley asked who exactly he'd made that bargain with, Dylan just laughed and said the chief commander in this world and the world we can't see. Bradley didn't have a follow-up. You could never predict what Bob Dylan was going to say, but you could always predict how it would feel. Every reporter who sat across from him, thinking they'd finally be the one to crack the code, walked away with nothing but a handful of riddles and a bruised ego. He didn't play the game. He didn't follow the script, and for 60 years, nobody could handle him. And that is exactly why the whole world is still trying to figure him out.